Sometimes in gaming you've got an itch, and it's a pretty hard one to scratch, right? Sometimes people think of the good old days, the peak of being a healer in an MMO, and pretty hard to scratch that itch. You gotta get a whole bunch of people together, you've got to organize them, and then you've got to go through the punishment that is going to be raiding with them, and it's pretty damn rough. But it turns out there are loads of invisible games out there. Games you've never heard of. But games that maybe the Steam algorithm will let you know about. And today, we're going to showcase one of these games. It's called Mini Healer. And it completely ruined a few days of Matt's sleep.
Yeah, so I heal in MMOs that I play as a lot of the time because, fast queues, etc., etc. But the thing is, their gameplay of healers is really quite simple overall. And there's just, there's so much kind of stuff you lose by being in an MMO. Because you have, as an example, other players. So, this game was recommended to me by someone on your Friday streams. And I was like, okay, well, I forgot about it for maybe a week or two. And then I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday night, I started playing it. And then I went to bed at 5:30 in the morning. Because it was so perfectly, this is, when you get an indie game, right? And it's like, indie games used to be kind of, here's like Meat Boy. Say Meat Boy is a demo, and that's some pretty good platforming, but that's really all there is to it, a couple levels. This is one of those games that you get, and you think it must be nothing, or it must be small. It must be, oh hey, here's a couple boss fights that you can heal through. And then I played it for 8 hours straight, because it's actually like a fully fledged indie game. Fully fledged, loads of systems, everything in it. And that's the stuff that you miss out on. But to kind of explain the game, it is very much just someone sat down and went, I like healing in an MMO. What does that look like outside of the bounds of an MMO? What does that look like if I have the same experience? That experience is kind of hard to get without a bunch of effort or a bunch of almost luck sometimes. What is the deepest version of that? And then they came out with Mini Healer, which is you're a healer. You've got an AI party that you kind of you don't control them, but you kind of send them on their way and kind of do stuff. You've got an ARPG gear system that makes most RPGs and most MMOs look like amateur are, which is completely insane. You've got customization that's I've never seen in any healer in any game I've played ever before, in terms of all these classes. It is and the talent, the cross class system, and it was just I would never have heard of it because even trying to look for coverage of it, there's almost nothing. It was literally just one passing comment on stream was like, "You're a healer. You should play Mini Healer." And now this little, it's basically this unloved little game with only 1,000 reviews that are all overwhelmingly positive. And you wouldn't have seen it. And I've just been thinking the whole time since, well, that game's incredible, but what else is there?
Yeah.
What else? What else do I want, but I don't know exists? What are the unknown unknowns of indie games? That's what it is. Crazy.
Yeah. There are so many monkeys with so many typewriters, and there's a hell of a lot of gold out there. You just never know. And it's one of the things that is the absolute hardest in the indie scene. It is hitting that critical mass that actually means you'll be talked about in the press.
Yep.
It is nigh impossible. Somehow, here's a great example of The Pale Beyond. We've only we have been mentioned in a few articles, maybe Roundup of Ludinaricon and things like that. Wishlist game in Steam, by the way. But the way that we got it, I think, is that Chris Schilling from Edge magazine.
Oh yeah.
I think it is just that he was going through demos, found our demo, and played it, and then decided, I guess, very luckily for us, to do a little feature in the game in Edge magazine, which was actually pretty cool. We were in a print magazine.
Really cool.
Barely any online sites, but in a print magazine. I mean, whatever. But that is just because one guy happened to find us. It is so damn hard. And to be honest, I was kind of surprised that this game didn't get more because A, it's so good. B, it is in such a, sure, it's not going to be like Stray, but it's so hyper-targeted to one sort of player that usually when you go that niche and you go that targeted, people are going to talk about you and share it with their friends because people who play healers and MMOs will share it. At least that happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought that was fascinating, but yes, it does put into perspective hidden games and just how much is out there that people would have absolutely no idea about.
Yeah, so obviously today we're going to talk a little bit about how to kind of get through this, how to solve this problem, how to kind of, how do you find these? Surely in the grand era of the internet, there's ways to look. And obviously there's like, actual word of mouth, which is kind of hard to find. But in this case, there's like so many ways. There's the hidden gems of Steam 250. There's Steam's own interactive recommender, which we'll talk about in a little bit because that's great. It's absolutely, genuinely incredible, the amount of stuff that actually happens here.
Yeah, so just take a look at these games, right? These are near the top of the, the 250 hidden gem games. You are dealing with scores here. 9.82 out of 10 from 450 voters.
That is 100. That is literally all positive reviews. That's the same for the top 7 games there, and number 9 as well. So 1 through 7 and 9 have no negative reviews from over 100, over 200, over 400 reviews each. That's, that's not a big sample size, but not a single one went, don't buy this game, don't play this game. But they're still staying small. But even like The Void Rains Upon Your Heart is one example there. And that's a game that I can't remember if I bought it or if it's just my wish list. But I happened on upon it one time because it's a shmup, which is kind of in my wheelhouse, so I'll kind of find it. And I was like, this is criminal. This game isn't, actually loved by more people as a result. It's completely insane. It's mad.
So to go back to Mini Healer, right? It's by Sad Doge, self-published. Now, it has done well enough, like 1,400 reviews, £5.79 here. I don't know, is that like $8.99 in US?
$7.99.
$7.99 US. I mean, wow, what a steal. Mm-hmm. So it's done pretty damn well, and as an overall slate of content, I guess, well, I've seen you play it.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's quite a lot from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing where you look at like, say you look at I think roguelikes are kind of the default for a lot of indies because it works, but you can't get so tired of them in the sense of there's so many games there's roguelikes from the get-go. There's kind of, here we'll solve the procedural generation problem and we have infinite content. And they don't have like that sense of progression, they don't have that like actual kind of enjoyment to them. And then you obviously look at roguelike elements in AAA games and go, we know what you're doing, fuck off. Really sad that I felt that way about God of War of all things for its little maze thing. But anyway, it's got about 8 hours solid. And we were talking about Stray recently. Stray's 4.5 hour game, $25. People love the hell out of that because it's so good. Whereas this is, 8 hours long of like solid progression. And then it's got the roguelike bit at the end, the infinite corridor. And it's less about like the singular amount of content. It's about the sheer amount of joy you can have within it in terms of all your cross-classing, all your different building. And it's like that targeted thing of what's missing in an MMO healing experience. Because it's got everything you kind of want. It's got really quite complex boss mechanics to the point where I've felt more challenged as a healer playing Mini Healer. Obviously, you would think the name Mini Healer mustn't be as big. But it's substantially more healing gameplay than I've had playing FF14 or World of Warcraft. Just because of the sheer amount of because it's limited in scope, they can just make the single solo dev can make so much more, put so much more weight on your shoulders mechanically, put so much more in that. Because I think there's this features like actual stats on the page, and I'm pretty sure they're fairly out of date. There's 35 unique bosses to challenge. I'm fairly sure it's more than that. I don't know if that's up to date, but it's definitely fairly high, and these are all like fully fledged like MMO bosses. You get you play, World of Warcraft or FF14, you get a couple bosses a month. Whereas this, you pay a $5 and get 35. And they're all like fully fledged. These are mechanically difficult bosses that you have to learn. You have to lose to. You have to learn how to deal with them. You can strategize different ways. You can change all your talents for free, change all your gear, and come back and try something else in ways that would blow the mind of that. I would love to see like a WoW Pro healer try to play this. Because they'd be wrecked, I think.
That'd be great.
I think they would be destroyed. But even like the, 300 unique artifacts, all designed for different interactions, it kind of blows Diablo games out of the water in a little bit of a way. Obviously, something like PoE and the Diablo games are really very big. But for someone doing this himself, it's completely crazy. That's what 4 years of dev time will do for you. But like over 23 spells, it's over 30 now. Because it just keeps getting updated consistently. Because it's just one solo project going for it. The crafting system is just, hey, you know all the problems you have with existing MMOs? All of the, we need to get playtime out of you, so you'll have to go and grind your gear. Same with like a PoE and Diablo, and like getting loot is like an important part of those sometimes. But you definitely feel you're taking the piss with my time. And because this is just someone with no desire to make you play forever, just making a creative game, is able to go, well, you can craft it. You grind it out in 5 minutes. There you go. Jobs are good. You get all your XP and stuff at the same time. It is like genuinely crazy. It's got procedural generation. It's got the whole progression. It's got a very, very light story to it. It's got a couple quests, and you can see from like the reviews and stuff, there's almost no one with a bad thing to say.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of point I want to get to here when it talks about this. Is like there's a lot of games that have a pretty wide audience, but a load of negatives. There's a lot of filler. There's a lot of kind of time wasting, or they're maybe not exactly for you. But in today's world, because of how many developers there are people who have just made your perfect game. It might not be your perfect game in a AAA stance. It may not be, like everyone thought Cyberpunk was going to be their perfect game. But it had too wide an audience to hit. And you can't please everyone at once. Obviously, you please almost no one with Cyberpunk, the way it released. Although apparently it's substantially better now.
Yeah.
But that's the thing where you can super target these niche, and that's why you get like no negative reviews. Because the only people who find it are people looking for it. And they love the hell out of it. And that's where you kind of get into the question of like, how do you look for stuff? But I wanted to highlight one little thing about this, and this is like, you remember Super Meat Boy? The first darling indie ever?
Yeah.
And that was Meat Boy, a Newgrounds prototype, which obviously loads of great games on Newgrounds, but it was one of the first to break the barrier and go, right, okay, we're a little game, Super Meat Boy. What about Xbox Live Arcade? What about a release on Steam? Because indies were so small at the time. Barely existed. This is kind of the same, where it was a Congregate game for free, 2018. And you see that again with Vampire Survivors, which was free as a demo on itch.io. And then eventually they go, oh, there's some interest here. Or, even just, I want to continue making this. And then they make it, and then it releases, and it explodes. It's such like in the world of getting caught up in AAA game development, how bad things are, how long everything takes, it's like all of that gap of AAA suffering under production stuff, you just go, well, now it's time to find games that you might actually, not even just play, you might love. You might deeply, deeply fall in love in. And it's such a great experience. Such a great experience.
And to help find games like this.
Yeah, because that's the key part.
There is the discovery queue, but there's something better than the discovery queue. It does take a few clicks to get to, and I have a suspicion that most people don't even know that it exists.
No, you have to know the name of it or go deep diving into Steam's experiment list to actually find it. It's at the very bottom of the page. You go to Steam Labs, which, why would you click Steam Labs? It's not really, they're Valve. They've just done a bunch of cool stuff and never told anybody about it. So you go to Labs and you scroll to the very bottom of the page and you get the interactive recommender, which is technically still an experiment. But if you want to find a game that you want to play, and I'm seriously not joking, if what you play on Steam is anything like what you like to play, if you're kind of, if you're true to yourself on Steam and not like me with 400 hours in Skyrim and, etc. But this is the Steam algorithm at its most powerful and its finest and its most fine-tuned. The shit that you get to see is like, I guess there's an example here where there's Astronautilus. I don't know how many reviews it has, I forgot to check, but it's like maybe single digits, maybe double digits. And they're not like, it's not maybe 100% positive, but it's a game that's so extremely up my alley. I saw it and went, oh shit, how could I have missed this? Oh, because it is just there.
Yeah, so it's like
it's at the bottom of the well.
If you go to that interactive recommender and just move that slider from popular to niche, you are going to find so many games that you just don't know about. And I guess it's like because I know a lot of people have came to us via MMOs. If you're like bored of MMOs or you've just been playing so many ARPGs that like your brain's turning into soup, pretty refreshing thing to do could be to hit up that interactive recommender and actually start to find some just new stuff. Yeah,
I would absolutely recommend even taking it for a quick spin, because you've got your two sliders, you've got your popular and niche. Obviously, maybe most people own Witcher 3 by now, but if you go to popular and then go to older by a couple of years, I've always found Witcher 3 is always at the top because it's so wide appeal. But as soon as you start to drag that niche down or drag the like year release timer a little bit closer, because there's an example here is the most popular one for my recommendation, and I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise, so it's kind of obvious, but there's Sunbreak. There's the demo for it, for the new release. You look at the niche version, and that's Astronautilus, a game about maybe 10, 20 people have played, but it's perfect for me based on tags, because Steam knows me better than I know myself. At least I generally think so.
Yeah, the only other way you can know about that is via like social media, or word of mouth or marketing.
Yeah.
And so many brilliant games, like Mini Healer, don't have the marketing. so you don't hear about them.
Yeah.
Right? You never know what you complete. Ships in the night, right? How many games have just went past you like ships in the night, and you've had absolutely no idea, even though you may have absolutely loved them. And we think so many performative gaming experiences, like, I absolutely love the game Freelancer.
Yeah.
It is sheer happenstance that I ended up picking that up in a bargain bin.
That was like the early beauty of like going to physical stores, or for like I guess younger PC gamers, the early days of Steam sales was perfect for that, where you would just be able to go, oh, what's that? That's interesting. But now in the kind of like hyper marketed world, it's very difficult to see anything. Because even Astronautilus is an interesting example, because I was like, okay, let's Google it, let's see if there's anything going. It's the name of a skin in League of Legends. How are you going to find Astronautilus? It does show to me on Steam, maybe because I've visited the page before, but it's like, how are you going to find the game? No one's going to report on it because it's just SEO death. Even if you are typing, you're not going to get people click it because they'll be looking for something else entirely. And that's one of the things where in this kind of world, you're kind of scuffed, but Steam absolutely helped there.
Yeah, so like if you, there it is, like 18 reviews, 94% positive.
Crazy. 18 reviews. Well, if you look by, the general standard, that's like maybe 800 sales, maybe?
Yeah. 94% positive.
Yeah, crazy.
719.
Yeah, and I mean, 94% that's what, 1 negative, 2 negative, maybe? Based on that low number. It's crazy how that is. I mean, obviously I looked at it as like, maybe that's not ideal, but it is, because there is a world where you look for like the perfect game, like Mini Healer, where that's like almost perfectly right up your alley. And then there's versions that maybe aren't so perfect, but they're perfect for you. And they're perfect for the people who want to play them. And that's where you get these reviews from. That's where you get the 90s, the high 90s. But then you look at games that do pretty well, 88%, 85% well reviewed on Steam. And you go, well, that's good. But then so many people pass over the 99s, 100s because they don't see them. Because they just don't see them.
That's it. So basically, head up that interactive recommender, see what's out there, and if you find one of those gems, like word of mouth.
Yep.
Word of mouth, you can really make things happen. All it takes is a few people to start, and then that chain just grows.
Yeah, I mean that's a thing where like even over the past couple of days, I've been kind of like trying to devise a strategy for like, how do you as an individual, as a game consumer in today's world of, oh my god, my brain is under assault from every form of everything, how do I get the optimal experience of playing games, especially in a way that, you could maybe an optimal experience of spending time, go play Warframe, but an optimal experience of like getting the high quality, like almost like the Wagyu beef of video games, but not quite as expensive maybe. And it's like, it seems to me the correct answer right now is a combination of going to Steam 250, going to the hidden gems, because that is where you'll see like 250 games of the highest review that no one's playing or no one's talking about. There is a bit of a, let's say a regional bias, because there's a lot of like Chinese and Japanese games there. So maybe that might not be super to your taste, but hidden gems is good for going outside your taste, trying to find what's specifically there. And I mean, the Void Rains Upon Your Hearts up there for like Smups. There's a load of Toho games there, which even if they may not be to your taste, it might be worth giving them a try because they're hidden gems for a reason. They're gems. Maybe your mileage may vary, but then after that, the interactive recommender. And the smarter that gets, the more games you play, the more you'll be able to figure out this is exactly for me. And my Steam list grew so much whenever I found it. So much.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's extreme. Yeah.
So, basically, have fun.
Yeah,
you really can. There's great shit out there. And, check out Mini Healer, and I suppose that's it from us. Wishlist The Pale Beyond in Steam if you'd like. We'd appreciate that if you want a narrative role-playing game. So, there you go. All right, Matt. Time for us to go. Thanks for watching.